Hokie Hangover podcast. It's Duke week. Mike's still on vacation. Andrew, it looks like, is also somewhat on vacation, coming to you live from a cavern of some sort. Andrew, where are you at, buddy?
A undisclosed location in New Jersey would be my location right now. It is Thanksgiving week. I am on vacation, but unlike Mike McDaniel, the people I'm on vacation with, i.e., my family, like parents and stuff, wouldn't be as disappointed for me taking time out of the day as maybe Mike's wife and children might be.
Yeah.
So we'll give Mike the week off. I think everyone needs a week off from this season. And
Yeah,
so I
that's
took
true.
mine. I took mine in California, and then again for Clemson. Mike's in Florida, and Ricky LeBlue just works.
Well, I am in, my fiance and I are in the process of selling our house, moving into a new house, and also putting the finishing touches on our wedding. So there is no time off for us.
No
Um,
such thing.
Yeah. So here's the deal, Andrew. This was supposed to be a Duke preview, and it will be. However, something happened last night that we're going to talk about here on this podcast, at least a little bit. It's supposed to be the uninteresting portion of the Virginia Tech basketball season, Andrew. This is the time of the year there where the Hokies really are supposed to kind of cruise to some wins and just kind of beat up on some of these. I guess mid majors is the politically correct term, but some of these bad programs. Just a reminder, folks, Jacksonville is in the Atlantic Sun Conference. They were projected, I think, to finish fourth or fifth in the preseason. They were 2-2 coming into this game. This is not a particularly good team. Uh, with that said, Jacksonville Dolphins 74, Virginia Tech Hokies 64. Andrew, Virginia Tech was outscored by 20 in the second half. So for those at home, if your math ain't mathin', Virginia Tech blew a 10-point lead after halftime in this game. Andrew, this drew quite the ire of folks on social media last night, and deservedly so. I'm going to cede the floor to you to start. I mean, this seems like a huge issue, at least in my eyes, for Virginia Tech losing a game to a team like this.
Yeah, Ricky. I mean, I'll take the 10,000 foot on this one. I mean, first things first, just to clarify, and I have the receipts. I have not been high on this Virginia Tech basketball program. I did not think this was going to be a good season. I thought there was a chance that maybe it could be a mediocre season. Early results have obviously indicated otherwise. I did take Jacksonville plus 13
You did.
prior
We saw the
prior to the
proof.
game. There was proof. There was proof. So you file that under my only regrets not betting more. But that's how these things go. I'm more focused on like the fallout from the game, if you will, because a lot of people are almost divided between it's a Mike Young problem or you can't blame Mike Young. Not to take the easy way out, but I fell somewhere in the middle. Ricky, because yes, it is true that Virginia Tech either just didn't have an understanding of what it costs to retain a ACC caliber roster in this NIL era, or they willfully just didn't allocate the resources in that direction. Either way, Mike Young's overall chances of having a good season this year were kicked to the curb in favor of the revamping of a football program, which I think most people would actually kind of agree with the idea of doing that, right? I think a lot of Virginia Tech fans, most even, would trade success and anything else for success on the football field. But
Yeah.
what we got out of that was a season that at best will be one win better than the previous. So when you hear the ire towards Whit Babcock, that's the reason why, right? So that can be true. But that's the excuse that you make when we're losing to Miami or any of these other ACC, middle tier programs that
Wake
you figure
Forest
that, Wake
was
Forest,
the
that Virginia,
example I used last night.
Exactly. Those are the teams that you feel like Virginia Tech should be able to compete with as, just 3 years removed from an ACC championship on the hardwood. And they're unlikely to. And that's where you can throw that. You didn't lose to Jacksonville because of NIL.
Yep.
So whether that's and I get it, it's hard. And we talked about this on the basketball season preview. An issue with Mike Young's offense, and part of the reason that Mike Young had so much success at Wofford and otherwise, was that it's complex, but you grow through it. It's very much a team element, right? Like chemistry is involved and just knowledge of the system. And when you lose your top 7 players in terms of minutes per game, it's hard to just plug and play like that, which is why you can make an argument that maybe in this era of college basketball, the Mike Young model might not be the way. But it is what it is. This team came out and lost to Jacksonville at home by double digits. And I'm not here to make excuses for it because that shouldn't happen. So what we have ahead of us seems to be a journey back to the past, right? And that past is the James Johnson era, very early Buzz Williams, but without the hope. It really does project to be a tough season on the hardwood.
Yeah, Andrew, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I'm not going to belabor the point here, but for those who didn't see my opinion on X, you can't convince me that the NIL issues that are plaguing this program and Mike Young and his staff are what caused this loss. I mean, Virginia Tech was outscored in the paint by 12. They allowed Jacksonville to shoot 51% from the field. And it's not like Jacksonville got hot from 3 and was able to kind of run it up that way. I think Jacksonville, they only shot 28% from the 3-point line in this game. So for me, I think this was just kind of a lackadaisical effort in the second half. To be outscored by what I think is maybe nicely characterized as a low major, Andrew, not even a mid major, by 20 points on your home court in the second half is pretty inexcusable, regardless of what kinks you may be ironing out. I was actually pretty impressed, Andrew, with the way that Mike Young kind of retooled and rebuilt this roster this offseason, given the challenges that he faced. Toby Lawal seems like he's got a lot of potential as kind of a swing man at the 4 spot, someone who can play 5 in a pinch, but probably better suited to play the 4, at least at the college level. He's got a ton of talent. I like what Tyler Johnson potentially gives this team. Jaden Shute seems like he's got some scoring ability, but was ice cold last night and just did not offer anything. But for me, it was just the inability to get stops in the second half and the inability to just make shots. And I'm not going to put that at the feet of NIL. I'm going to put that at the feet of Mike Young and his staff not having these guys ready to play after halftime. And I think it's as simple as that. And it's disappointing because I think, Andrew, I think you and I agree, and I know that Mike agrees, that by and large, I've liked Mike Young's coaching on the floor throughout his entire tenure in Blacksburg. We've had issues about or had qualms with his development issues and some guys not panning out and his inability to retain some of those high-level guys that we've talked about in the past. But I've never had the feeling that Mike Young was struggling to coach X's and O's in the moment. And that's exactly how I felt last night. And that's really discouraging, given that Virginia Tech really needs Mike Young to put together his best coaching performance of his career if this team is going to be any good this year. So it's a long season. Obviously, there are many games to be played. We are pretty far removed from the conference slate at this point, but if this game is at all indicative of what we're going to see on the floor for the men's basketball program. Andrew, you and I were talking about maybe 7 or 8 ACC wins just a few days ago. They're not going to get to that number if they're playing the way that they played against Jacksonville. My hope is that this is a wake-up call to the entire program, players, Mike Young, his assistants. This needs to be kind of a shot in the arm, and I'm really hoping that when they return to the floor, they're going to be playing with a bit more pep in their step, and they're going to be a little bit more focused, especially in the second half when they should have chances to make adjustments.
Yeah, Rick. I mean, like you said, long season, and this is a situation where you'd expect the team to get better over time as they're very young, youngest team in the ACC, and they've also never played together.
But the point with Jacksonville too is this team's a team that's got transfers as well. So while I understand the chemistry point that some folks are making for Virginia Tech, that cuts for every team. Every team's dealing with that at this point in the year.
Yeah, exactly. But nonetheless, with the youth, with the chemistry, I'm just trying to make some sort of optimistic argument that things could get better. But right now, today, with the double-digit loss to Jacksonville, being outclassed by Penn State, tight one with Winthrop. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to sit here and tell you that I believe that this team is, if I had to bet, I'd bet they're going to finish in the bottom quartile of what is a 18-team ACC.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But again, prove me wrong. I would love to see it. I want to be entertained. It's a bummer, especially being, our age, roughly, where you've experienced a lot of good basketball. And, if you came in through college, from 2012 on, basketball has been the thing that's kind of carried you through as a Virginia Tech sports fan. Men's basketball and then later the women, with Liz Kitley, Georgia Amor, Kenny Brooks, and the like. Was playing at a really high level there. And it just does, it looks like for the first time since it's going to be, I have a hard time believing that this team isn't going to finish worse than any team since Buzz Williams' first season.
Certainly looks like it might be heading that way. Hopefully Mike Young's able to get this ship at least pointed in the general direction of competency. I'm not asking for a ton, but I do think the Virginia Tech needs to be able to avoid losing their bye games. Moving on from the basketball team, we'll obviously cover that a lot through the remainder of the year, Andrew. It's Duke week, and Virginia Tech is traveling to Durham to face the 7-3 Blue Devils. This is a team that absolutely demolished what has been left by Rick Stockstill in Middle Tennessee State earlier this year. However, since playing some tougher competition, Duke has really taken a step backwards, especially in terms of the results. They lost on the road for their first loss of the season at Georgia Tech a few weeks ago. They were able to beat Florida State. Really no issues there. They take SMU to overtime. They lose by 1, 28-27. They got throttled by Miami, and then they win by 10 last week against the Wolfpack. This is a Duke team that put together one of the most disgusting wins of the year in week 2, 26-20 over Northwestern on the road. I don't know if our listeners or our viewers or Andrew, if you got to watch that game, but that was an absolutely horrendous game. And this is a Duke offense that scored 30 points just twice this year, one of which was in a shootout against Miami where they were well behind. And the other, obviously, against Middle Tennessee State. So this is a Duke offense that has really kind of struggled to find its footing with Malik Murphy running the show. With that said, I'm not really sure that it's all Malik Murphy's fault. You look at what he's done as a passer. He's completing just a shade under 60% of his throws, 22 touchdowns to 8 picks, which is far better than any of the Virginia Tech quarterback statistics, combining Colin Schley and Kyron Drones. Malik Murphy doesn't have a ton around him, and I think that that's kind of limited this Duke offense. What are you kind of expecting from the Blue Devils on Saturday on the offensive side?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a struggle on that end, and it has been all season for them. But it's the kind of team that, in a very similar fashion to, I'm not saying that they're at the talent level of Virginia Tech teams of lore, but even when, Bud was on his thing and the offense, we were calling for coordinators to be fired, in that prime of the Beamer era. It's like the defense finds a way to get things done, and they do it by, simply just not making mistakes, Ricky, and that's a powerful thing. Ultimately, like the biggest mistake that they did make was, I mean, in a game like, for instance, like you look at the SMU game, right? Like that was a game where they had 5 turnovers. They forced 5 turnovers and they still lost, right? Like, and they should have won. If you remember how that game ended with a chip shot field goal in regulation that I believe was blocked. But ultimately, like, it's a game that Virginia Tech should be able to win on paper if they could just go out there and play any semblance of competent offense. And that's kind of like the extent of the preview there. I mean, Murphy is he, I think he's like a 3rd quartile ACC quarterback. Right, like he leaves some to be desired. He still has plenty of time to develop as a talent. He's a younger guy, but he's a little bit erratic. He's not going to go out there and toss the ball around the yard like some of these quarterbacks in the ACC even can. So if you're Duke, if they can get something going on the ground, which they've had trouble doing for most of the year. Mm-hmm. That would be a really good sign, and I'm sure if you're a Duke fan and you're playing it from that angle, it's like maybe you think this is the team that you could do it against. So I think number one for Virginia Tech is just being solid against the run and basically force Duke's game plan to be what they're better at, but still not great, which is putting the ball in the air with Malik Murphy. And yeah, I think that there's still enough talent there, and as Duke has shown, and again, like, talk about their schedule all you want. They're a Division I football team. They're 7-3. Like,
yeah,
they're capable of doing.
They got there for a reason.
Yes, they're capable of doing some things, and yeah, but ultimately, at the end of the day, for Virginia Tech, like a solid defensive game could make this first to 20 contest. And my question right now really is, based on what I saw from Kyron Drones and Virginia Tech's offense last week, not as much. I mean, Kyron Drones wasn't the quarterback. And by the way, we don't know if Kyron Drones is going to be the quarterback this week anyway, or if Bashal Tutin's playing. But Georgia Tech, Clemson, those 2 kind of games aren't going to get it done offensively. Like, that's where you're really putting yourself in jeopardy to lose. And I think that from what I've seen, which seems to be a pattern forming, like that's why you kind of view this game as one that could potentially, it feels toss-up-y in the same way that maybe Rutgers did.
Yeah, and we know how the Hokies have done in toss-up games under Brent Pry's tutelage in Blacksburg.
Yeah, I hate to do it, but... And someone pulled the stat. I believe it was Doug Bowman on the other podcast I'm on. But Duke's got a great record in 1-score games. And Manny Diaz has a track record. And I have all the respect in the world for Manny Diaz. I think he's a great coach. I think Miami is a tough place to win culturally. I think that Duke is a much better fit for him. And you see what they're doing defensively. Not only just under a great defensive coach in Mike Elko, but discipline-wise, it's clear that Mike Elko, or Manny Diaz, but Mike Elko didn't leave the cupboard bare there.
Yeah.
And you have a program that now is over 7 wins or more. Season's not over. Duke has a chance to win 2 more games. The last one they likely will. I believe it's Wake Forest. So that gets them
Yep.
to 8. So that's what, 7, 8 wins or more, 3 years in a row. 2 of those years being a year one. All
Hmm.
3 years, it's Duke. We talk about it all the time, but when the talent is even moderately even, it comes down to the little things. And who dictates that? The coaches. And Duke has made 2 good hires who have managed to, limited time, but they've achieved success at a place where doing so is against the odds. The odds are very much stacked against you there.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to think that Duke has hired Mike Helko, who only lasted 2 years before he got plucked by an elite program, and then Manny Diaz, who obviously folks around the country think is pretty good considering he got a job at Miami before getting this job at Duke, and both of those coaches have had a lot of success at Duke for sure. The thing about this Duke offense that I'm interested to see is does Virginia Tech force them into a lot of one-on-one situations in the passing game? Uh, Duke has a couple guys, right? Jordan Moore, Eli Pancol. I can see Virginia Tech essentially putting Dorian Strong, Mansour Delane, Dante Lovett when he gets into the game. I can see Virginia Tech putting those guys in a lot of one-on-one situations to try and force Malik Murphy to push the ball downfield. That's not something that Malik Murphy has done a ton of this year. He's really hit a lot in the RPO game and kind of some of the shorter throws. This Duke offense just isn't built to really push the ball down the field. And for Virginia Tech, you're not really worried about Malik Murphy as a runner. He's got negative rushing yards on the season. He's not a guy that's really going to beat you with his legs. So generally speaking, those are the kinds of quarterbacks that Virginia Tech can find some success against. We saw that obviously was not the case when they went up to Syracuse and faced Kyle McCord. But I don't think that Malik Murphy is Kyle McCord from a passing perspective. I don't think that he's got the same accuracy or the same ability to anticipate his throws. And McCord has a much better track record when it comes to pushing the ball downfield. So for me, I think this Virginia Tech defense, this is a great opportunity for someone like Antoine Powell-Ryland to tee off because you're going up against a quarterback that isn't going to be able to get away from you. And then for guys like Mansour Delane and Dorian Strong, who are both looking to potentially improve their draft stock, this is a game where I think you're going to be challenged and you're going to have an opportunity to make some really good plays on one-on-one coverage. And I think that that's probably what we're going to see from Chris Marv's defense on Saturday. As far as this Duke defense goes, Andrew, they've been pretty stout for most of the year. The only team that's really gotten their number has been Miami, and Miami has put up a ton of points against almost everybody. This is a Duke defense that is deep. They have Pro Football Focus gives a ton of these guys really solid grades up and down the roster on defense, and they have only given up. Yeah, I think they've only given up 30 points once, and it was that Miami game. So Duke does a really good job of limiting opposing offenses. And for an offense that is probably going to start the backup quarterback, Andrew, I think it's likely that Colin Schlee is going to be the starter on Saturday. Bashal Tootin, I have no idea if he's going to play. If he doesn't, what is Jeremiah Coney's health status? I know that Pry said he was banged up in the Clemson game, supposedly. Is he able to play? How do they handle that? We know Malachi Thomas is out already. So this Virginia Tech offense, even after a bye week, is certainly dealing with some serious health issues. And I don't know that this offense is going to be able to get much done without, especially Bashal Tootin. I'm a little bit indifferent on Kyron given the way that he's played this year, but the Bashal Tootin injury seems obviously significant.
Yeah, obviously we saw Bashal Tootin against Clemson, and it wasn't the real Bashal Tootin.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest, right? In terms of Kyron, right? I'd rather have a 100% Schlee than a banged up Kyron.
Yeah.
I think that
We saw what banged up Kyron
Yeah,
looks like against
and
Clemson.
I
It
think
didn't
that
look
Brent
good.
Pry's kicking himself for that. I mean, he should be because I mean, like again, he was banged up, but it's one of those games where it's hard to imagine Schlee, who we saw run a effective first at least first three quarters offense
Yeah.
against Syracuse, and despite the fact that the offense was stagnant, and you had an opportunity to retake momentum, they still stuck with him. And I get it; he's the captain. He has a track record, but one of the things about football, right, is these players are never going. The players want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're not going to be honest with you. The coaches have to make hard decisions sometimes about who gives the team the best chance to win. So I'll be really interested to see what happens there. In terms of the running back position, I mean, Tootin obviously at least was hurt. We'll see what he looks like in the game. Malachi Thomas is banged up. Jeremiah Coney's banged up. So, I mean, the very real possibility that you're running out there with Colin Schlee and like your fourth running back, it happens. But at the same time, like, excuses don't go that far, man. Like, no one gave Justin Fuente a pass in 2021 when he was running out there with Knox Caden at Boston College. Yeah, so I hate how I have to trigger people on this show all the time, but that was a tough one. Friday night game, too. Friday night game. But, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where this game is huge. Both these next two games are huge.
Mm-hmm.
The season's already a bit of a disappointment, more than a bit. But you get to 7 wins, possibly even 8 wins with the bowl game. You can claim, well, there was progress. 6-6, or God forbid, 5-7. And, it'll be spin if they call it progress.
Oh, yeah.
But at least 7 wins will give you the opportunity to make a disingenuous argument in a season where you came in and said that expectation was to go to the ACC championship game, right? Like, but you at least have to give yourself that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing this program needs is another like UVA to make a bowl game, which has happened 5 times over the last 10 seasons, the previous 10 seasons, 5 times that has happened, that they had to beat UVA to make a bowl. We don't need that again. So yeah, I mean, it's truly just like you had a bye week, figure it out. You had a bye week, figure it out. There's been plenty of time to evaluate what's going on. This is a game that, we can't blame it on NIL. Just like Jacksonville in basketball.
Yeah.
So you got to go out there and win. At what is a tough place to win. Duke plays very well at home. 83% over the last 3 seasons, their winning percentage at home. Interested
to see what the turnout is there at Wallace Wade. It feels like it's kind of hit or miss with the Blue Devils fan base. It is a night game, so you wonder if folks will be able to I guess stay awake for that. We'll see what the tailgate looks like over there in Durham. Anything else you want to add on the Blue Devils?
No, I'm pretty much there. I mean, in terms of the showing, well, first of all, did we get the Sam Norman comment on
the Brent Pry being 1-5 against year 1 or interim coaches?
It's a painful poll.
I don't know if that's accurate, but if it is, damn, that's rough.
Yeah, that's not the stat that you want.
No, there are too many bad stats that involve like 1 in something for Brent Pry. It's just not working right now, to put it mildly.
What I'd be interested in seeing, which I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but would this Duke win be like in terms of your SP plus, the best win of the prior year? I probably would.
I mean, in terms of record, it absolutely would be. To go on the road and beat a 7-3 team. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I know that the Duke schedule hasn't been particularly challenging, but You don't win 7 games on accident at this point in the year. So,
Yeah, again, you are who your record says you are, and Duke has beaten the teams that they've been given the opportunity to beat. And you could say like they almost beat. I mean, they got killed by Miami, but Duke was never equipped to be in a horse race with Cam Ward. Like, let's be honest. Like,
yeah,
their defense is good, but
awful
at,
matchup.
at a certain point, yeah, like matchups matter. But even with SMU, a high flying offense, Duke found a way to keep themselves in that football game and almost win. And yeah, close only counts on horseshoes and hand grenades, but they're 7-3, so they've won more than twice as much as they've lost. Let's do picks. I'll find the SP Plus poll to see if this would in fact be the highest like analytical. But yeah, I mean, I think it has to be. I think it has to be
It
one way or the other.
be.
And I feel like we say this every week, but it's probably not the most important game of the Pry era, but it certainly is quite important.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's do our picks. We'll obviously save the Hokies for last. Noon on ESPN. Wake Forest going down to Miami Gardens, Coral Gables, whatever the hell you want to call it. They're going to Hard Rock. Miami's a 24-point favorite in this game. Are you rolling with the Deeks to be able to handle that spread?
Nope. give me Miami. Another great pull there from James Gilmore then in the comments. This is the last chance potentially for this team to beat a team playing their starting quarterback. Very true. The rest of the wins have come against their backup quarterback or quarterbacks that were later benched. In the case of the one that was later benched, Thomas Castellanos immediately quit the team. How about that?
Yeah, very interesting. And another intriguing thing is that Calandria was benched last week for the Who's. However, he, I guess, is retaining that starting job for now. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll get to that. But like, they come in, Tony Elliott in the press conference is like, well, yeah, if the game were to be today, this was like yesterday, Wednesday, Calandria would be our starting quarterback. One of the UVA guys, I think it was maybe Brandon Lloyd, quotes it and says, how bad is Tony Muskett look at practice? Yeah, of course the guy that we benched last week is our starter.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right, so we're both on the Canes. Noon on ESPN2. A much more intriguing game, in my opinion. SMU traveling to Charlottesville. Those dastardly Who's. SMU is only a 10-point favorite, despite being 9-1. Andrew, I'm going to go with SMU to cover 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Vegas knows something, but I don't think that the Who's can hang in there. Again, the Who's are benching their starting quarterback midway through games. Like
SMU's
rolling to the playoff. They
been,
might get killed in the playoff, but they're rolling to the playoff.
Yeah, they've been a wagon essentially since Kevin Jennings took the starting job, and I'm not going to get off the wagon now. Another noon game. God, ESPN's got the monopoly here. ACC Network, UConn at Syracuse. Syracuse 10.5-point favorites. I guess I'm going to go with Syracuse. I'm not going to claim to know much about the Huskies, but I think Syracuse can get the job done here and be able to cover that.
Yeah, I'm kind of resigned to the idea that maybe Syracuse has to be kind of good. So give me the Cuse. I don't know anything about UConn football, though. Do not take that one as gambling advice.
Andrew, seeing Fran Brown in year one win 8+ games at Syracuse while Virginia Tech is mired in mediocrity is rather frustrating.
Plenty of excuses out there. Plenty of excuses.
Yeah, just tired of hearing them. Another nooner, Jesus, the CW, North Carolina at BC. UNC's 2.5-point favorite on the road. Mac Brown staying supposedly after this year, not retiring. That's the news this week. As a Virginia Tech fan, totally fine with that. I'm going to go with Boston College here as home dogs. Home dog on the CW? Absolutely. Give me the Boston College Eagles.
I'll take Amari and Hampton in Carolina. Kid's good. That's like Bashal Tootin. I would say in a bad program, but what are they? Basically the same record as us.
Sicko watch here, Andrew. 1:30. Andrew, this game couldn't even get on actual television. Charleston Southern at Florida State. I have no idea what the spread is on this game, but I do find it hilarious that Florida State is playing on what is essentially a stream-only game in November. I find that just objectively hilarious. We don't have to pick this game.
Yeah, but they're worth so much that they need to get out of the conference. How about, again, just try winning games in the conference or try beating Charleston Southern. Let's see if they can do that.
Speaking of teams trying to get out of the conference, 3:30 on the CW, a CW doubleheader. Goodness. Citadel at Clemson. No idea what the spread is here either. I'm going to take the Tigers minus whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, Citadel. What is this? Is this the big game, Andrew? Stanford at Cal? Is that what this is called?
The band is on the field.
Honestly, that would be the only thing that would make this game intriguing. Cal, 14.5-point favorite at home against Stanford. These two teams are combined 3-10 in the ACC. So neither of these teams are particularly good. I know that Cal's got, it seems to be a bit more talent on the offensive side. I don't think they're going to cover this. Give me Stanford with the points.
Give me Fernando Mendoza. How many wins does Cal have on the year?
5-5.
All right. Well, we need a Cal win to get another ACC team in a bowl game. But shout out to Cal because, they beat Auburn. They beat Auburn, the big bad SEC.
Yeah, they did. Just Sam Norman checking in here on our 1-5 stat. 2022 Georgia Tech, Duke, and Miami. 2023 Purdue. 2024 Syracuse. Only win against a year one head coach is BC this year, which oddly enough might have been one of the best coaches on that list in Bill O'Brien.
Ding, ding, ding. Sam Norman pulling the stats for us. Thank you, sir.
4 p.m. ESPN2 Pitt at Louisville. This game is also kind of taken a bit of a nosedive in terms of what we thought it might have been a few weeks ago. Louisville 8.5-point favorite at home. I'm not really sure what the status on Eli Holstein is, and I feel like that's going to significantly impact my thought on this game because Pitt's offense without Eli Holstein is some buns.
Yeah, that leaves things in the balance. So it's a hard game to pick, but we'll assume that because the line is the way that it is, that Vegas assumes that he's not playing. So give me Louisville.
So it says Eli Holstein has been cleared. However, he has not been named the starter for this game. They have not named a starter. So no idea how that's going to work out. I'm going to take I'm going to take Louisville here. They've been playing better football of late. Give me the Cards at home. That Pitt offense, I'm going to just assume that Yarnell is playing and they're just not very good with him running the show. Finally, the only primetime game in the conference this week. That's how you know you've made it. Virginia Tech at 7-3 Duke. Virginia Tech is a 3-point favorite in this game, which I can't believe it. I argued with Mike for like the last 3 weeks on this podcast that Virginia Tech should not be a favorite on the road at Duke. And sure enough, Las Vegas has put Virginia Tech as road favorites in this game. The floor is yours.
I think Collins Lee can score more than 20 points.
Is that all it's going to take?
I think 24 wins the game. Give me Virginia Tech to win, but not cover. A win, no cover here is mine.
Which is tough with a 3-point spread.
It's tough, but they're going to figure it out. It's a one-score game, though, so maybe
That would be a one-score win, which nobody would love to see more than Mike McDaniel to get rid of the state.
it's maybe I'm just wish casting at this point, but
I think you are.
I think I am too. But give it to me. Give it to me. Tech wins.
Yeah. In case you couldn't tell, I'm pretty much out on this year. I don't think Virginia Tech's going to win this game. I don't think they should be favored. If Bashal Tutin was healthy, I might think a lot differently. This offense really misses him. It's just not the same unit. Duke has won these kinds of games before. Andrew, this is a 46.5 over under, which is just absolutely filthy. Duke's probably going to win this game something along the lines of 24-21 or 23-20 or something like that. This is going to be pretty ugly. I don't think Duke is going to score a ton of points in this game. Virginia Tech's defense is good enough to keep a lid on this unit for sure. This isn't the Syracuse offense. I don't see a game where Duke pops off and scores 30 plus. The problem is Virginia Tech's offense has not shown an ability, especially without Bashal Tutin, to move the ball consistently. They just can't do it. And the last time that Virginia Tech did not have healthy running backs at the top of the depth chart, Virginia Tech just gave up on the run against Clemson. I don't know that they're going to do that in this game, but Duke's defensive front is not quite as good as Clemson's, but they're certainly not that far off. So I think Duke's going to be able to keep this unit bottled up for the most part. It's going to force a lot of throws downfield and a lot of Colin Schlee improvising, which I would love for him to not have to do. But that, I think, is what this offense is going to look like on Saturday night. Give me Duke to win outright here as home dogs. The Hokies are not going to win this game, in my opinion. And we're going to, once again, Andrew, need a win against the Hoos to make a bowl.
We'll give credit to our commenter here, Sam Norman, who's provided us with great information. He says 28-17. Duke. Well, Rick, should be an interesting one. Are you planning on going to Blacksburg Saturday after Thanksgiving?
I was. However, I am no longer able to. Something came up with work, so I will.
That's something that came up, is you no longer care.
No, I'm actually really disappointed. This was going to be the one game that I was going to be able to bring my fiance to. She was really excited about it. So not going to be able to make it to Blacksburg for that game, which surprisingly is a night game. I was not expecting that one to end up in prime time.
Gonna be cold.
Yes, it will be chilly, which I'm sure I will appreciate the warmth here in the house. Won't have to worry about that. Regardless, we'll be back most likely on Sunday, normal time, for our recap of this game. I think Mike McDaniel will be back for the recap, Andrew.
Should be.
We'll see. Regardless, it should be a good one. Let's certainly hope that Virginia Tech surprises me and wins this game. Lord knows I do not want to have to sweat out a bowl eligibility game next weekend. Until then, we'll talk to you later. Before we leave, Counts Family Pharmacy, if you're in Blacksburg, go say hi. Big fans of them. Shout out to Home Field for supporting the podcast as well. We're appreciative of both of y'all for helping us be able to get this show on the air. Until then, go Hokies.